Welcome to an expose that peels back Hollywood's veneer of glamour to reveal a darker reality. When Terrence Howard walked away from blockbuster roles, few understood why. Tonight, he breaks his silence. Swing, you'll hear unfiltered testimony from one of the industry's most respected actors, legal experts dissecting explosive lawsuits, and insiders exposing the system that rewards silence and punishes integrity. Stay with us. What follows is more than gossip. It's a case study in power, accountability, and the true cost of success. I've spent a lifetime honing my craft. I learned early that certain doors only open if you're willing to trade something far more valuable than a role. I'm not talking about money or fame, I'm talking about integrity. I chose principle over parts. When Sean Diddy Combs invited me to his private studio for weeks, "Teach me your technique," he said, I sensed something else. My assistant pulled me aside. "He's not asking you to act. He's asking for favors." That was the moment I drew the line. Howard's decision cost him roles that would have vaulted his career to new heights. Instead, he preserved his self-respect, and now he's ready to name names. Exposing the truth draws fire. Howard claims he faced threats, legal and personal, simply for speaking out. Within hours of the interview airing, Howard began receiving ominous messages, some veiled legal warnings, others more sinister. Yet he persisted, backed by a surprising ally. Rapper and entrepreneur Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. "I never attended those freak-off parties. I value my name too much." When you refuse to play that game, you stand alone, until you find others who did the same. Terrence did the right thing. I stand with him because I didn't bend over for glory. Solidarity from powerful figures signaled a shift. Silence no longer guaranteed safety. On April 1st, a bombshell civil lawsuit filed in Florida widened the circle of scrutiny to include some of the world's biggest names. Osef Menzero's complaint alleges he was drugged, transported against his will, and coerced into a humiliating sexual act masked by a penis-shaped covering, all at a private freak-off party hosted by Combs in April 2015. Crucially, the suit names Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and LeBron James, not as defendants but as witnesses, present at the event, aware of the ordeal. Being listed as a witness doesn't imply liability for the act itself, but it does open the door to subpoenas. If these individuals possess relevant testimony, what they saw, what they heard, they may be compelled to speak under oath. The more high-profile the witness, the greater the pressure to negotiate immunity or push for dismissal. Secret tunnels allegedly connected to Gloria Estefan's Miami property and other estates. As witnesses, these celebrities face a choice: testify and risk reputational harm, or resist and invite more scrutiny. When public figures are implicated by association, every tweet, meme, and late-night joke becomes fodder. Will Smith briefly broke his silence with a nervous quip on stage. "I haven't been anywhere near those damn freak-offs. I don't even like baby oil." Humor can deflect suspicion, but does it ultimately heal trust? Memes spread faster than court filings. A joke on Twitter can shape public perception more enduringly than a formal statement. For artists like Usher and Justin Bieber, also named by Howard as struggling with trauma, the fallout hit harder. Therapy can help, but social media's verdict feels permanent. Terrence Howard and his supporters speak of the man card, an unspoken badge of self-respect. Once surrendered, they say, it's nearly impossible to reclaim. When you trade your manhood, your spiritual energy for a role, you diminish your core. I produce 1,500 sperm per heartbeat for a reason. Aggression, drive, purpose. If you give that away, you lose yourself. Many of these artists I know, they carried memories from those parties like a curse. Drugs, depression, therapy, they're haunted. Psychologist. Survivors of coerced sexual experiences often report long-term trauma, shame, anxiety, distrust. When combined with fame's spotlight, recovery becomes more complex. Maintaining boundaries in high-pressure situations is crucial for mental health. The man card isn't about machismo, it's about preserving mental equilibrium in a cutthroat industry. From Harvey Weinstein to Jeffrey Epstein, history has exposed patterns of exploitation in both film and music. Today's allegations follow a familiar script. Powerful figures leveraging access for sexual favors, protected by contracts and non-disclosure agreements. Despite high-profile convictions, the machinery of secrecy endures. NDAs, legal threats, and reputational blackmail keep victims silent. Terrence Howard's revelations and Menzero's lawsuit suggest that Combs' network functioned as a coercive enterprise, with executives, producers, and performers complicit or coerced. As Diddy's criminal trial looms, Netflix prepares to release Did He Do It?, a documentary chronicling decades of allegations. Jury selection is scheduled for next month, despite defense motions for delay. The defense argues they need more time to sift through evidence, emails, videos, CEO's testimonies. The judge denied the request, citing no clear prejudice. Federal prosecutors plan to call at least 5 witnesses, including Cassie Ventura, whose recorded assault video dates back to March 2016. Promotional materials promise authentic, nuanced perspectives and voices of the voiceless. But will the documentary sway public opinion before the jury renders its verdict? And will civil suits continue to name new witnesses, forcing more stars into the spotlight? This unfolding saga forces a critical question. Can an industry built on art survive without ethics? Studios and labels may tighten policies, but true reform requires cultural change, empowering whistleblowers without fear of retaliation. We need independent ombudsmen, clearer reporting channels, and guaranteed legal support for victims. It's not enough to punish the few who get caught. We must dismantle the systems that enable abuse. Every viewer has a role. By demanding transparency, supporting survivors, and refusing to ignore warning signs, we can influence the future of entertainment, making it safer for creators and audiences alike. Since the Florida suit went public, more alleged victims have stepped forward. In the past week alone, 2 former assistants to Sean "Diddy" Combs filed affidavits corroborating Joseph Manzaro's account, describing identical patterns of coercion at Combs' Los Angeles and New York residences. These new sworn statements detail private jets used to transport young men across states under false pretenses, and non-disclosure agreements forcing silence under threat of million-dollar penalties. A legislative committee in California is now reviewing draft bills that would ban NDAs in cases of sexual misconduct, a potential landmark reform if signed into law later this year. Netflix's Did He Do It? Team recently completed interviews with 3 former Combs employees, all protected by interim court orders. One source describes the executive production team unearthing a previously unseen 2012 voicemail in which Combs allegedly brags about keeping certain things off camera. They told me, "You can help rewrite Hollywood history if you play ball, but every time I refused, I saw how fast careers could be derailed." Inside sources confirm that the documentary's edit includes internal legal memos suggesting Combs' attorneys attempted to block footage as irrelevant, a tactic now exposed as standard defense strategy. On Twitter, the hashtag number #FreakOffFiles has trended 3 days running, amassing over 200 million impressions. Polls show 68% of respondents believe Combs' career should be permanently derailed if the allegations prove true, while 22% call for due process above all. Influencers are launching fundraisers to support survivors, with one campaign exceeding $500,000 in donations within 48 hours. This groundswell of public support is forcing major labels and studios to reconsider ongoing partnerships with anyone linked to Combs' network. In parallel civil actions, investors in Combs' Bad Boy Entertainment have privately threatened to withhold future funding, citing breach of fiduciary duty if company assets are used to settle personal legal claims. Morgan Stanley analysts project a 15% drop in Bad Boy's market valuation if Combs is convicted. Corporate governance experts warn that these financial pressures could incentivize a last-ditch settlement, yet prosecutors indicate they plan to pursue the criminal case to its conclusion. That means open court testimony, where Combs' public persona may clash with sworn statements under oath. Beyond individual careers, this scandal has ignited calls for systemic change. The Hollywood Commission on Ethical Practices announced a new task force this week, co-chaired by Senator Catherine Baker and Academy CEO David Miller, to draft industry-wide codes of conduct enforceable under union contracts. We will no longer tolerate cultures that enable exploitation. Our goal is zero tolerance, clear reporting channels, and transparent investigation processes. Unions like SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild have pledged support, promising binding arbitration panels staffed with independent legal experts to handle future complaints. What can viewers and artists learn from this unfolding drama? First, awareness. Recognize the red flags of coercive power dynamics, invitation by private message, abrupt NDAs, and isolation from support networks. Second, solidarity. Use social platforms responsibly to amplify credible voices rather than spread unverified rumors. Finally, action. Advocate for legal reforms in your state, like limiting NDA enforcement or funding independent oversight bodies and entertainment hubs. Every petition signature and public comment can tip the balance towards safer, creative environments. In the coming weeks, jury selection will begin, followed by a trial that could last into next year. The documentary's release is slated for the fourth quarter, just ahead of major award season campaigns, ensuring its findings enter the cultural conversation at a pivotal moment. Stay informed by following reputable outlets, reviewing court documents as they become public, and engaging with survivor-led organizations. What starts as a celebrity scandal can evolve into a blueprint for ethical reform across all industries. As we close this expose, remember, the real price of silence is not just dollars or reputations. It's lives compromised by unchecked power. Terrence Howard's bravery, Joseph Manzaro's lawsuit, and the voices yet to come all share a common thread. Integrity demands amplification. Thank you for listening. We'll be here as the story unfolds, committed to truth, justice, and the accountability that Hollywood owes to every individual on and off camera. Terrence Howard walked into that studio knowing exactly what was expected of him. He knew that behind the velvet ropes and studio lights lurked an unspoken price, and he refused to pay it. He refused to barter his integrity for a role, even when it meant turning down opportunities that most actors would kill for. He refused to teach Sean Diddy Combs his craft, because one afternoon standing in that private suite, he realized the request wasn't about acting. It was about favors. Within 24 hours of his interview airing, his phone lines were flooded with threats. Lawyers' letters arrived demanding retractions. Private investigators showed up at his door, and late-night messages warned him to keep quiet. But Terrence didn't back down. His story inspired others to speak up, including 2 former assistants who filed sworn affidavits on May 20th, recounting near-identical episodes in Miami and New York, secret flights, isolated suites, and the same threatening NDAs, each carrying a $2 million penalty for breach. Meanwhile, in Sacramento, lawmakers answered the call. On May 22nd, Assembly Bill 317 cleared its first committee vote by a 9-2 margin. Under its provisions, NDAs cannot be enforced in cases of sexual misconduct or trafficking. Assemblymember Rivera made it clear survivors should not live in fear of financial ruin. The bill advances to the full assembly and could reach governor's desk by June 1st. Financial markets have taken notice. A Morgan Stanley analysis published last week projects a 20% drop in Bad Boy Entertainment's market capitalization if criminal convictions are handed down. Legal liabilities alone, already exceeding $50 million, could force the company's board to restructure, with investors demanding seats to oversee governance. At the same time, grassroots Patreon campaigns supporting survivors have raised over $1.2 million since May 18th, signaling a powerful wave of public solidarity. Mental health experts warn of a hidden cost long after headlines fade. Dr. Lisa Crawford, a forensic psychologist, estimates that post-traumatic stress disorder affects 40 to 60% of survivors who endured coercive control in high-pressure settings. She explains that the subtle tactics, gifted trips, repeated creative retreats, and sudden isolation leave deep scars that therapy can take years to heal. This week, at a Los Angeles support group convened under Chatham House rule, 3 survivors shared, some through voice distortion, that they continue to battle anxiety and intrusive memories triggered by news reports. One still cannot board a plane without reliving the moment she realized escape meant losing her career. Major studios and music labels are no longer silent. Warner Music Group announced on May 21st a zero-tolerance policy on backstage misconduct, mandating ethics training for every artist and staff member by July 2025. Contracts are being rewritten to include explicit consent clauses and audit rights for independent investigators. SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild will hold joint hearings on May 30th to draft binding codes enforceable through arbitration, ensuring complaints cannot be buried by legal fees or corporate pressure. Social media has amplified all of this. The hashtag #ExposeHollywood trended globally, peaking at 5 million tweets on May 24th. Insight Link polling shows 72% of Americans support federal oversight of entertainment industry practices, likening it to financial regulation. TikTok influencers launched the hashtag #SurvivingTheFreakoff Challenge, raising awareness and more than $500,000 for advocacy groups in just 48 hours. Even award season campaigns are being reshaped. Studios are weighing the reputational risk of promoting films linked to parties now under criminal investigation. At the heart of the story stands one question: can creativity flourish when power is unchecked? The criminal trial for Diddy's federal charges opens jury selection on July 10th. Netflix plans to release Did He Do It on August 15th, featuring new internal memos that Combs' attorneys sought to suppress as irrelevant. Between the courtroom and the documentary screen, the next 3 months will determine not only one man's fate, but the legacy of an entire industry. If you've ever wondered what happens when silence is broken, look at the wave building now. Affidavits multiplying, laws changing, boardrooms trembling, and survivors finding their voices. The reckoning will test whether Hollywood can rewrite its script, transforming from an empire built on secrecy into a culture that values safety, consent, and respect above all. The story is still unfolding, but one thing is clear: what you've heard tonight is just the beginning. As trials proceed and documentaries air, stay informed. Share this story, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for continued coverage. Integrity isn't just Terrence Howard's battle, it's ours. Together, we can help ensure that art shines brighter than the secrets it hides. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay courageous, and most of all, stay true to yourself.